bet, and that gets us to the Sunday night football game, which is just a treat that we get this week 1 as a Sunday night football game. 2 of the teams that are at the top of the AFC, Ravens at Bills. Bills have protected home field very well recently, but the Ravens, I believe, kind of beat up on Buffalo in the regular season last year, and the Ravens are the current Super Bowl favorite by odds. So what do we think? What do we expect to see in this game?
So these are two teams for trends-wise that will start slow for the most part, especially Buffalo. The Ravens are 4-2 in season openers with Lamar. Of course, they lost in a heartbreaker last year to Kansas City, and then they've lost a season opener as well outside of that. But for the Bills specifically, they are super slow out of the gates with Josh Allen. They're 4-3. One of those wins is last year against Arizona, where Arizona was a double-digit underdog and covered and was in the game, and Kyler Murray had the ball with 30 seconds left, down 3, past the 50-yard line, and throws a terrible pick, just an awful pick. But they escaped out of that game. And then you think the Aaron Rodgers Achilles injury was against Buffalo. Buffalo lost that game after Aaron Rodgers gets hurt on the 3rd play of the game. So this is a team that just starts slow in season openers. The only one that they've really started fast was when they defeated the defending Super Bowl champs in the Los Angeles Rams, where they kind of boat raced them the entire game. But again, that was a Rams team that went all in on that season, and then going forward were not really that great until they have now returned with Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. So Buffalo plays really slow in these season openers, and I don't expect it to really be any different here. That's why the Ravens are favored, I think. I think this is a revenge game for them with how they lost last year in the postseason with the devastating drop for Mark Andrews. Lamar was not great in that game. He doesn't turn the ball over all season and then turns it over twice against Buffalo. They destroyed Buffalo in Week 3 last year, scoring, I think it was a 30-point blowout. Sanders talked about there's not a lot of blowouts. That was one of the blowouts last year. Baltimore blowing out Buffalo. I'm really high on both of these teams. I have Buffalo being the number 1 overall seed, if I'm not mistaken, and I have the Buffalo Bills as my number 2. No, I have the Buffalo Bills as my number 1 overall, and the Ravens as my number 2, separated by 1 win. I think the Ravens are really in a good spot to win this game. For me, the key to the game is just going to be offensively. Is this Ravens offense still like really, really good, like top of the league good? Because I expect Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills to start slow. He did not play a single snap in the preseason, and I don't think that favors him. It was the first time he's ever done that and not play a snap in the preseason. So maybe there's some reverse psychology of trying to change starting slow by not doing what you had been doing. You see the same thing with Cincinnati trying to do that, but playing in the preseason. But I think the Ravens, if they're really, really good offensively, they're going to win this game, and I think they're going to win this game easily.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really important. I feel like this is kind of cliche, but like who has ball last, right? Because this is a matchup of the 2 Super Bowl favorites. Baltimore is first at plus. Hold on, I just had it put up in my iPad. Went to sleep.
Plus 700.
Plus 700, and then
Buffalo's 750.
Yeah, and then it's also a matchup of the 2 MVP favorites: Lamar Jackson at plus 490, Josh Allen right behind him at plus 500. So this is potentially the best matchup we're going to see all season as far as top end team and QB talent goes. The 2 MVP favorites, 2 Super Bowl favorites. It's going to be an awesome matchup, and so that's why it kind of comes down to who has ball last, because these teams are very close. In the Super Bowl favorites, they're evenly matched. And so if Josh Allen gets the ball back down 3 or down 4 with a minute and a half left, like, can the Ravens stop them? If the Baltimore gets the ball back 2 minutes, down 6, like, is Lamar Jackson just going to scramble on 3rd downs and drive down the field and score a touchdown and win the game? I kind of think that's what it could come down to. I don't expect one team to win this by more than a possession. Sure. And so who ends up with ball last? That's kind of what I think is going to come down to.
Yeah, it's weird previewing this game week 1 because for so many other teams, there's like a lot of questions and position groups that are big weaknesses. And since you talked about these 2 teams being the favorite, they don't really have that, either of them. Buffalo maybe in their secondary a little bit. It's getting older. Maxwell Hairston's already hurt, the rookie that they drafted.
Yeah,
so
he may
won't
not play this year.
So
This year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's tough.
so that maybe is like the biggest weakness either of these teams have, but it's not like a huge one. But I guess if I'm like looking at something, it's like maybe the Ravens can exploit that secondary and really just kind of pass a ton on top of their great rushing attack with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. But it is just weird because that's not that I need to see a ton from these teams. We've seen it year in and year out. I'm just excited to see them get on the field and play.
Yeah, the Ravens defense, I think, is the misconception right now is that they were really, really bad last year. We talked about it in their preview. In their first 10 games, they gave up 300 passing yards per game. But in their last 9 games, they only gave up 175. So the secondary really kind of came together and started to play just better. They add, of course, Jair Alexander to already what is kind of a talented defensive backroom from a name perspective. Of course, Kyle Hamilton is a star, but Marlon Humphrey's still there. Jair Alexander is now there. And then, of course, Nate Wiggins, their first-round pick from now 2 years ago, is there. And they, of course, also added Malachi Starks. And so the defensive backroom, I think, could even improve more. And so I think the misconception for people right now is that the Ravens defense was bad and that they're going to continue to be bad. I think the defense might be the strength of the team this year. And that is also it's a concern for Buffalo with how slow they start, especially Josh Allen, against what is, I think, one of the best defenses in the league. I because it's Sunday Night Football, because it's two great teams, I would not be surprised if it came down to the last possession. But I really think Baltimore is going to win by double digits.
Okay.
I really feel that way right now. I think the only way it doesn't happen is if we just see some kind of ascension from a guy like Keon Coleman. Does Joshua Palmer just like add a bunch of consistency for the offense? Of course, Buffalo adds Joey Bosa, but Joey Bosa hasn't really been productive for a couple years, and they've got their own questions defensively. This is really for the most part, it's a Josh Allen team, and he is so good that he carries them as far as he does. But the signs don't look good right now for Buffalo, I feel like, in week 1. Are they going to be great? Yeah, I still have them as my number 1 overall seed. I picked them to win the game and our predictions to start the year. But the more I looked at it, I think Baltimore is in a great spot here.
Sure. So you basically already predicted the game. So let's get into predicting the game. Mentioned it previously, but Ravens are 1.5-point favorites on the road, and I have Baltimore winning this game. I don't think it'll be a blowout like JP thinks could happen, but I feel very confident that the Ravens are going to win this game.
Yeah, I'm going to bet on Josh Allen, the MVP from last year. I do think that there are some shortages on the defensive side of the ball and also in that wide receiver room. You've got a lot of, you don't have an Amari Cooper like you did 3 years ago or two years ago, or Stephon Diggs like you did a couple years ago. You just don't have that guy who's like your go-to guy. So I think there's some shortages there. But I think Josh Allen's just going to get it done because it's kind of what he does.
Sure.
And I think that the fact that they're going up against the Super Bowl favorites is going to potentially help with that slow start. I'm hoping that they come out and kind of lock in from the get-go because it's such a big game, Sunday Night Football. I think that could actually help with their slow start, so that's why I'm going to help pick the Bills.
That's completely fair. In a lot of those slow starts, they've played the Jets 3 times to open the season with Josh Allen. They've played Pittsburgh. That makes sense. That's a completely fair point there. But again, I'm taking the Ravens to cover. Sure. I think they can win this game by double digits, but I'm really excited to watch it. It's a big rematch from last year, and then it's a huge game because if these teams end up with the same record, this is the tiebreaker, the first game of the season. And these teams could look completely different later down the road, but this will be the factor in whether or not one of these teams gets home field advantage over the other. And from what we've seen, I think that would play a factor if they were to meet in the postseason again. Buffalo has hosted the Ravens twice and beaten the Ravens twice in the postseason, and the Ravens need this game to get home field advantage because they blew up Buffalo last year at home. But, man, it is a treat. For week 1, Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Patrick Mahomes will probably get mentioned more than Lamar and Josh Allen, but I can't wait.